Good afternoon. Good morning, everybody. I'm very glad to be with you today for this second part of our episode 3 of June 2021. I'm today together with Team Delia, who is our technical lead. I am Isabelle Bilreriel, Business Development Director for DALIM software in Europe. So we will be talking today about how can brand produce and manage more content. So a few things I would like to share with you, a few figures actually. This is regarding the number of photos that have been published and taken every year. So as we can see, there's more and more photos we are taken years after years. In 2021, we have an increase of almost 10%, and this will continue within the upcoming years. This is interesting because photos are actually the favorite media for brands to communicate with their customers, and customers really appreciate taking good photos quality, and this is a big part of their purchasing journey when they want to get and buy a product. But photos is not only the only media brands like. They also really appreciate video, and there's a rise of production of video per year. And we see that this is also something which is growing, and there's quite an interesting progression between last year and this year. And also another very interesting point for video is that it's not only concerned marketing department, it's also for produced by other people that marketing. It can be internal people, but it can be also customers creating videos. Those ones they are used to illustrate the product. This is for tutorial, and this is a very nice way to communicate through social media about products, about experience. And one last point I wanted to share before diving into the subject. This is the way this content is published by brands. So we see we have content which is published on a weekly basis, and more than 30% of all this content. And this can be one time a week or several times a week. So it's quite a lot of information that you have to produce there.
Yeah, and I think that leads us nicely onto how do we produce all of this content? How do we keep up with the demand for daily, weekly, maybe even a couple of times a week? How do we produce all this content? How do we get all that out there?
So as you are talking about the first thing we would think is about how you can organize this content, how you would manage it. So what is the first thing which come in your mind? So we were really lucky today because you've been working for BBC team, and you've been also deploying and integrating content management solution and brands. So what is the first thing that come in mind when we talk about content management?
Okay, yeah. So when we talk about content management, really it's about, first of all, understanding what content we have. A lot of the times content is duplicated. You can end up spending a lot of money on your brand getting something to go through the photo studio more than once. So first of all, we have to have a way to find what content we own, and a DAM is a great way of doing that. We can have search, we can have facets, we can have similarity search inside of our system. We even have machine learning, which will auto tag assets and extract colors, which just really helps us get to the content that we own quickly. And obviously, you've got to try and get this content into your system somehow. So we provide a way for you to upload lots of different types of content, pick a location to put that content into, and even tag it initially so that it has some nice information available, so that when your users come into the system, maybe they've got a notification saying some new content's been uploaded, they can find it, they can see what you've added, and they can start to work on it.
So this is a very interesting subject. You were talking about tagging the asset, and one big issue is, and we hear a lot about metadata. So can you give us a little bit more information about what is the usage of metadata, how great they are, what it's helpful for?
Yeah. So metadata is an incredible tool for the DAM. It allows you to take information and display it to your users in a way that can help them find and understand what the content is. So when we think about metadata, we don't just think about, a little bit of information on where the shot was taken. We may have information like usage rights. We may have information of where we purchased an image, and we may even have information about how much each of us like that asset, so we can work out what content is the most popular.
Okay, so you have built up this library, you have tagged the file, you can search, you can find them, but there's also a quite interesting question. Who do have access to this information? What is the way to make sure that the right people are getting the right access to the files?
And this is really important, because the last thing you need is for your users to be bombarded with information when they're searching for things. So access control comes in at this point. And this is where we start to talk about, okay, we're going to upload the information that is most important to the people in this list into the folder that we're giving access to. The last thing you want when you're accessing a DAM is to see everything, even if it's not relevant to you. So where we think about content control, this is just as important as tagging things with metadata.
So I understand. So actually, now we have all our library of content. It's easy to access. We're sure that the right people do have access to the right information. But the next things you want to think about, this is you may want to get some new content, because this content is not necessarily the one you want to get. So what can you recommend? How is that working with new content?
Of course, yes. So when you're deciding what to make, you first of all had to find the assets you like, and then when you've narrowed down your search, maybe you've put them in a collection, you'd go through this view here maybe and look at them in high resolution, in side by side, and you'd pick the perfect asset for your repurposing. And then when you found the asset you like, you're going to want to do something to it. Now, inside of the browser, we give you the ability to use our crop tool. It can pick a crop, and you can even see that we did some little variations there with the sizes. You have the aspect ratio picker, so we can say, okay, I want a banner for Twitter, or I want a profile picture, or I want the perfect size for my website. And you can define all these yourself and have them for your system. Once you've done that, you just pick the output. You pick the output for your channel. So it may be a different size, it may be a different color profile, it may even be a different image type, and then you just download it. And then you can repeat that process as many times as you want to produce content for different channels.
Yeah, I see how this one can be really useful, because you have the asset, you just want to reuse some small part of the asset, but if you want to create some new asset, like imagine a brochure or a poster where you want to add a logo, what is the best way you would recommend to go?
Okay, so obviously we give you a bit of power in the browser to do something yourself, but if you'd like to actually work and collaborate with a team, like maybe you have an art department or you have a video department, this is where you need to start your collaboration workflow. And this is where we offer our high-res viewer. The high-res viewer has a lot of tools for you to give feedback on assets and pretty much order the job that you want from the system by leaving annotations, extracting information from it, and making sure the instructions are clear on what you want next.
So you mean that you are sharing the information with the rest of your team, and this is smoothing and streamlining the communication between the different people. And what about revision? Because okay, you've done the new asset. What's about it? How can you make sure you have the right one?
So this is just as important. So once the content has been produced for me, I want to check what my art editor has done. I want to make sure the instructions that I've given them has been carried out. So this is where I have my versioning system. I can open multiple versions of the asset. I can look at them side by side. And we even have a really useful tool for analyzing the actual file and bringing to the front what has changed, so that if you do end up doing a minor change, you can still kind of detect that change and see what's happening.
I see how powerful it is in the case I'm looking at my photos and I want to look at the different versions, see if the change has been done. But also brands are doing a lot of campaigns, and a campaign means also a lot of assets, a lot of photos. Is there anything you can also propose to speed up the process and to get them, looking at the styling, making sure the photo shooting is okay?
Yeah, so this is where we've introduced the concepts of like a 16-view dialogue. This is our high-res viewer with all the tools we have in our high-res viewer available in 16 panels. This allows you to basically look at a lot of shots from your campaign, leave comments on them, maybe check the color of them, do anything you really want to do inside of all these panels. And this is really a great way of seeing everything you want to work on without having to flick through them or open lots of documents at the same time.
Is it only working for photos, or it's also working for PDF or this 16 view? You can get, I suppose, different assets?
Yeah, so our viewer now supports websites as well. So this is where a lot of brands are defined by their website. And websites need their own content approval workflow as well. It's just as important as any image that's going on a website. It's just as important as social media. So you need a place that you can collaborate on these things. So this is where we've provided a live website annotation tool. You can leave comments, you can draw on the website, and you can really make sure that the content that's going on your website is correct and feed this back to the web development team.
And I see it's a very unified way of looking at things, because actually you have exactly the same experience with the website as you do have with photo, as you were showing us just before. And what about video? Because video, we've seen, is also a big subject for brands. And this is also a very nice way to communicate about the product, to share information with their audience, with their customers.
Yeah, of course. So video has become just as important as photography on social media, on websites. You know, websites were once text and images and static content. Now, a lot of brands are dealing with video to get their subject out there. You can explain a lot more in a video. So again, you need a workflow where you can leave feedback on a video, you can annotate it, and you can collaborate with a team that's going to be doing the modifications for you.
Okay. We've been talking about video, we've been talking about website, about photos. Is there anything else you can do? Because actually content is quite various. You have a lot of kind of content, you know. So
we can see here on this slide that, you know, there are a lot of different formats that we support. And, you know, we talk about content, we talk about different output channels, but all of these content output channels have their own workflow that they have to go through. So we have 3D production, we have the ability to view PSDs inside of our system, we have the ability to review Excel spreadsheets as well, and that can contain information about the job that you're meant to be producing. So, you know, it's important in this campaign creation to support every format that we can.
So it leads me to another question. We hear, because we see here we have a lot of format, we have a lot of information. We hear more and more about automatic asset creation. What does it mean? What is the first automation you would like such a system to bring to a brand to facilitate their day-to-day tasks?
Yeah, so if we take photography, for example, we have some assets here, and we may have had these produced for us, they may have come from a studio, we may have had some retouching done. Now they're ready, they've finally been through their approval cycle, and the campaign is ready to do something with. So we want to approve those assets, and we can see here that once we approve those assets, it's now creating lots of variations of those assets, and it's putting them into these subfolders of large social media, website. And this means that we don't have to have a user go in and open our crop tool and do a download of all those different sizes and variations. They can just automatically, with a single approval, produce lots of different outputs. And we're just looking at 3 here, but you could imagine that any output channel that you would like can be used. And if we bring it back to video as well, we have the ability to transcode videos. So maybe through your video workflow, we could produce lots of different versions of that video ready for web, ready for iPhone, ready for all different devices.
Yeah, I see how important this automation could be for brands, because I know that, for example, 2 or 3 years ago, a brand was communicating about, they were addressing about 8 channels, and today it's more about 13 to 15 channels. So I see how this kind of automation can bring power and can speed up the process. And another one, it's okay, you have everything produced, and what's next? You want to use that, so
Yeah.
how do you do it?
Yeah, so once all this content's produced, you obviously want to do something with it, and we provide a way to deliver to lots of different output channels. Like you could deliver to a file system, you could deliver to Dropbox, any kind of S3 buckets and Google and things like that. But also, you may want to just post it straight to social media. So from within the platform, of course, you should be able to pick an asset, open it, show it inside that social media platform, write your post, and get it into that social media channel straight away without having to download it and do it on your own device.
Oh, I see. If we summarize, so we have now the content, we have also speed up our production with how we can produce some more assets, and the next step which come in mind, this is...
Yeah, so we've obviously, summarized how we can manage it, produce it, and I'm going to actually throw a question at you now, which is what type of feedback are you hearing from customers about what we should put into the system to help them, plan all the production and, make sure that content gets produced on time?
Yeah, that one is a big question, and you're fully true, because we've been asked many times to bring to the system tools to help customer to manage the campaign, because a campaign is not only a few pictures, but it can be a set of video, it can be a set of website, and so on. So what we brought to inside here, this is a Gantt planning tool that enables to get a full overview of the production and analyze and see exactly where the production is, where are the bottlenecks, if they will get enough resources. You can also manage the resources, the deadline, and of course what you can also get, this is a specific dashboard where you have your to-do list. So all in one, this is very good, because this is pointing to the different person the information they need to get to manage the project. One last question I'd like to ask you about, because this is also something very important. So you are tracking, but what people want to do, when you have all of this into control, this is how can you improve and optimize the process?
Yep, so this is where statistics come in and visualization of data. We want to take everything that we've done in the previous steps, finding content, producing content, and we want to look at the analytics, the metadata, the time it took in between production and approval, and we want to use that data to then get better at doing it. So you can imagine that you have a campaign coming up and it's the same amount of assets that need to be produced. You could look at the statistics of a previous campaign that happened, and you can kind of start to fine-tune and analyze and see what exactly happened and where we can improve and make sure that content gets out. Because we were talking at the start about producing content daily, and if you want to keep that up, you need to make sure you're analyzing your statistics.
So I understand that you can get through this all your own KPI. Thank you, Tim. I think it looks like we reached the end of the session, so we almost at the end. Bertin, do we have any question?
Yes, of course. So hello again. We have a couple of questions. I think they are mostly directed to Tim. Sorry, Isabel.
Okay.
Although it's nice to see you all dressed up for all these questions. Anyway, Tim, you were talking about the sharing options, sharing something on LinkedIn, and so on. Can you share a whole collection?
Share an entire collection. So when you've gathered things inside of a collection, you can select every asset inside the collection and do the same action. Also, we've added the ability on a collection to pick users that you want to also have that collection. So when they log into the system, they get in their list the collection that you've shared with them, and it will have the name of the user that shared it with them next to the collection name. And we could even attach this to a notification as well if you wanted to make them, force them to log into the system and look at the collection. Yeah.
Wow, I thought it was a yes/no answer.
Yes.
Sorry. Another question from Chris. So, talking about the dialog engine, the 3D viewer. Yeah, so he wants to know, what file formats can we view there?
Okay, off the top of my head, I can't provide that, but it's actually, I think, in our
I think I can help
documentation,
on.
so maybe
I
Isabel.
think I can help on that one. This is a Collada file format, but actually, what you can do is to plug the system to tools and to convert the format in Collada, so you can get them and render them inside ES.
Yeah, so we do actually have an engine in the background that converts 3D files. So maybe the format may not preview correctly in our high-res viewer, but if we convert it, we can preview it. Yeah.
Right. That's what we're doing at some customer side. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Another one from Chris Herrick. Hey, Chris, how you doing? Is it possible to use unusual or custom parameters for variables for assets? For example, in 3D, can you select only files that would not require support structures on a certain technology, for example?
Wow.
Sorry, I had to just read this.
Okay, so I mean, if you understand what can be supported by what, then it's possible to create your own metadata sets with as complex structure as you would like, and then someone can either manually tag that. But obviously, because we extract the MIME type, which is the extension, if we're able to analyze what type of file it is through automation, we could automatically tag the metadata for you, and then why not? You could search for it in our asset system. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. And another one from Chris Field. Can you go a little bit more in detail about the video viewer? What's possible to do in there and what file formats are supported?
Okay, yeah. So the same with video. We render a web-ready preview. So when you upload a video, we don't show you the video as it is because it may be quite big for a browser to load. So we generate a web-ready preview. And then when you're viewing it inside the viewer, you can pause, you can leave an annotation, and then on the timeline, you can decide how long you want that annotation to appear. We've recently just added support for different translation layers as well. So you can actually leave comments on each language that is inside of the video in terms of subtitles. And when you flick through the different subtitles, the comments hide and disappear depending on what language you've selected. So it's pretty powerful.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm sure, Chris, if you hear me, maybe you just want to stick around a little bit later as well, so to have Tim in the chat on one of the tables to ask more questions, because that's it for now. Those are all the questions, so I think it's time to wrap up. And I guess it's time for a little break. So this time, not so much with the tables, but with the meditation and breathing exercises. So enjoy. See you later.
Thank you.